So we have seen, especially over the last has it been 3 weeks now? CAD must have been, but we've seen over the past couple of weeks, we've seen a continuous rise in COVID. My own area, Barnsley, apparently, this Saturday is apparently meant to be going into Tier 3 lockdown. Um, so this is going to have huge, ramifications on the area as well as businesses. We're already seeing, for example, the mayor in Manchester saying, we agree that we have to lock down. However, we need the support to do it. We need financial support. There are going to be businesses and other companies that are just not going to be able to survive if we go into another lockdown. So we need that monetary support. The government just doesn't appear to be giving that support. And I agree that in some way there has to be, the government has to recognise that they have to support what is going on in these these businesses and lockdowns, because it gets even worse. If you're someone who was self-employed at the moment, as of the end of October, the furlough scheme officially ends for you. And in this new winter package, from what I've read and from what at least I understand, people who are self-employed or freelancers don't get a damn thing. So there's going to be a lot of people in really, really, really dire straits soon. This is why the government needs to recognise and just go, we need to give them the money to help them support them, or else there's going to be no businesses to reopen very much soon. But we also see the other side of this, the incredible ridiculousness of the anti-maskers, who, if you've seen some of their placards and stuff from some of these protest marches that they've done in central London, some of them are still blaming 5G for this virus being spreading. Some people are still saying that this virus just doesn't exist and that it's just the flu, which couldn't be further from the truth. But unfortunately, there seems to be a link between these anti-vaxxers and this libertarian think tanks that are helping to fund these anti-maskers, which begs the question, why are they doing this? What's their aim and what's their end goal? So this actually comes from The Guardian today. And it's the pursuit of herd immunity is a folly. So who's funding this bad science? Earlier this month, in a wood-panelled room in a country estate in Massachusetts, 3 definitely unmasked professors gathered around a large oak table to sign a declaration about the global response to the pandemic. One academic had flown across the Atlantic from Oxford, another had travelled from California. The signing ceremony had been carefully orchestrated for media attention, with a slick website and video production to accompany the event, and an ostentatious champagne toast to follow. You might not have heard of the Great Barrington Declaration, but you'll likely have seen it in the headlines that followed it. Journalists have written excitedly about an emergency rift in the scientific community as the consensus around the most effective response to COVID supposedly disintegrates. The declaration, which called for an immediate resumption of, quote, life as normal for everyone but the vulnerable, fueled by these notions by casting doubt on the utility of lockdown restrictions. We know that all populations will eventually reach herd immunity, it stated. The scientists were swift in their response. The declaration's core assumption that population immunity will be achieved by allowing life to go on as normal and shielding only the most vulnerable from the virus is entirely speculative. The thrust of the argument is based on a false opposition between those who argue for lockdown and those who are against it, when in fact lockdowns are one of the numerous measures that scientists have called for and are seen as a short-term last resort to regain control. And shutting away the most vulnerable as life continues as normal is not only inhumane but impossible. But this measure The carers, the household members, and the frequent close contacts of the vulnerable people would also need to isolate. Moreover, young people with pre-existing conditions they don't yet know about can equally be susceptible and, of course, long COVID. With its debilitating host of symptoms, it affects people of different ages. The truth is that this strategy of pursuing herd immunity is nothing more than a fringe view. There is no real scientific divide over this approach because there is no science to justify its usage in the case of COVID-19. We know that when it comes to other coronaviruses, immunity is only temporary. The president of the UK's Medical Academy of Medical Sciences, in a detailed rebuttal, describes the declaration's proposals as unethical and just simply not possible. It's time to stop asking the question, is this is this sound science? We know it is not. Instead, we should be more curious about the political interests surrounding the declaration. Within hours of its launch, it exceeded political and ideological impact disproportionate with the scientific significance. The hashtag #SignUpStartLiving began trending on social media. Its 3 signatures were later received by Alex Azar, the US Secretary of Health and Human Services, and by Scott Atlas, repeatedly appointed as Donald Trump's health advisor, who tweeted on October the 8th that, quote, top scientists all over the world are lining up with the president on hashtag COVID-19 policy, and on a call convened by the White House, 2 senior officials in Trump's administration cited the declaration. So was this ever really about science? When scientists disagree, we expect them to provide evidence for their position. Yet, the declaration's many contentious statements are unreferenced, and the manner of its launch seemed designed to amplify publicity over substance. If anything, the tactics employed in this performance have serious implications for the public's trust in scientists. It's clear that the declaration is being used as to legitimize a libertarian agenda. Indeed, some authors have questioned if it was ever anything more about health, or whether its motivations were always purely economic. As Professor of Political Economy, Richard Murphy put it, the declaration was the economics of neoliberalism running riot, reveling in the process, its utter indifference to the interests of anyone but those who can, quote, add value within the system. As we approach one of the most important elections in the history of Western democracy, itself described as a referendum on lockdown, we should be asking, who funded this piece of political theatre, and for what purpose? The American Institute for Economic Research, where the declaration was signed, is a libertarian think tank that, in its own words, is committed to, quote, pure freedom, and wishes to see the role of government sharply confined. The Institute has a history of funding controversial research, such as a study of extolling the benefits of sweatshops, supplying multinationals for those employed in them. While its statements on climate change largely downplay the threats of the environmental crisis, it is a partner of the Atlas network of think tanks, which acts as an umbrella for free market and libertarian institutions, whose funders have included tobacco firms, ExxonMobil, and the Koch brothers. One question to the organization about its relationship with the 3 signatories went unanswered, but it has posted a number of articles about the declaration and herd immunity on its website. These are not names one would associate with sound public health policies, but the trio of scientists who fronted the declaration were able to put the weight of the world's most prestigious academic institutions behind their statements: Stanford, Harvard, and Oxford, giving the declaration a sheen of respectability. The views of those scientists about lockdown and the pursuit of herd immunity are no doubt sincerely held, though notably not published in any peer-reviewed scientific articles. But they are falling into a trap set by the right. The right-wing free market foundations and institutions have long attempted to salvage public reputation of well-intentioned policies, such as those aimed at curbing ecological threats and limiting smoking. Some of these tactics these organisations have used in the past are those we see at play in the Great Barrington Declaration: discredit the scientific consensus, spread and sow confusion about what is the right response, and sow the seeds of doubt. It seems that lockdown restrictions aimed at bringing the virus under control are merely the latest target in this right-wing stealth campaign. The science is clear. Attaining herd immunity to coronavirus via uncontrolled infection is a fringe view, peddled by a minority with no evidence to back up their positions. What's less certain is the political and economic interests that lie behind this declaration. Let the debate begin on those. And I completely 100% agree, but this is something we've seen before, and it's not just here. You may or might not know of a guy in America, a right-wing guy called Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro, in his views on lockdown, is literally, he wants the American workers to die. That's the best way to sum up his views on this anti-lockdown. But then he's equally being paid by millionaires and billionaires to push their agenda. So we really do have to be careful about this. I mean, as it was said there, let the scientists argue this out. Because, as we also got to very clearly annotate, there is no evidence that, going for herd immunity would work. It's, as said there, would be absolutely folly and inhumane. And it's just absolutely unbelievable, but we're still in this state. But I somehow thought this would happen, as I've seen conspiracy theorists literally go hog wild on this. But there you go. It's absolutely insane, but that's where we are, and it's really, really worrying, because even if a vaccine does come out, you've now got to address the whole situation of, you have a large group of the population who are going to refuse the vaccine because it's, quote, a Bill Gates scam to secretly put a microchip in you or something like that, or it'll secretly give you some other disease. This is the bizarre stuff of the anti-vax movement, and yet there you go. Yeah, it's absolutely insane. But yeah, please do, of course, while you're out there, please do be careful. Please do wear your masks. Please do follow the rules, and remember to wash your hands. So, with that said, thanks for watching. We'll see you all next time. There are links down below should you like to support the channel in that way. And of course, see you soon.